Josh from Populi here. We're managing settings on forms. Forms allow you to collect data from respondents in Populi, so lots of uses. If you're just getting started with forms, we have a video about creating forms, and you might want to start there. But once you've created a form, so much of what it can do will be determined by how you manage the settings. To be able to access forms and create a form, you must have the staff role. Beyond that, each form can be limited to specific roles, as we'll see. As our example here, we're going to design a basic alumni survey form, but the principles we're using here will apply to whatever you need to build. Here's the scope of what our example intends to accomplish. This form would collect basic information about alumni interest in school communications and events, information that a school hypothetically would use to inform a fundraising campaign. Setting up all those fields is covered in the Creating a Form video. The form would be distributed to school alumni, one of those situations where they may or may not still have an active Populi login. But settings controls how the form actually behaves. So we want to get our footing on those details. On Home, you'll go to Forms, and then over on the right, you'll click Manage Forms. We'll click into this existing alumni survey form. You'll see Manage Access over here on the right. This controls which of your users can access a given form from the administrative side, doing things like sending out response requests, editing form fields, and viewing responses. We'll start by clicking Manage Access. Again, by default, the staff role can manage forms and responses. They have full access to the form and all its functions. Unless, as in this case, we don't want all staff users to have that kind of access. On the drop-down for staff access, we're going to change that. We want staff to be able to view the form and responses and request responses, but not to change the form itself or the settings. So we'll set that. Quick note on requesting responses. This is an option that exists in various places throughout Populi. You can request responses to forms one at a time on a profile or en masse from various places. That results in an email going out to whoever you've requested that form response from, and then also if they're a Populi user, when they log in, they'll get an alert on their homepage. We're talking about fundraising in our example, so we do want donations users to have comprehensive access to this form. So we're going to select the donations role from the dropdown and then set that so that users with that role can manage form and responses. We'll also add an individual to this list. The college president wants to know what alumni are up to, so we'll set him to view the form and its responses. Once that looks good, we can click Save. Published down here lets us move from draft to published or back. When we're ready, we'll come back and click Publish. That'll take the form out of draft mode and make it available to respondents according to the rest of the settings. This field shows that the form is set to accept responses once published. If we click on that field, we can change that. We can also set availability, which we want to do for our example here. Since we want this information ahead of the kickoff for our fundraising campaign, we're going to schedule its availability, starting soon and then remaining open for a while. Since it's likely that a number of the respondents won't have active user accounts, we won't require a login on this one. If we were to require one, the respondents would be prompted to log into Populi before they access the form. The next field is Respondent Permissions. This is mostly used if we want to constrain responses from specific user types, so specific roles in Populi. If we only wanted academic admins to respond, we could set that here, etc. We can also define how they're able to respond so they can respond on behalf of other users, things like that. If this anonymous field is set to yes, Populi prevents your administration staff, etc., from seeing who submitted a given response. You can see all of the responses, You just don't know who they came from. So you'll use this setting if you want to solicit confidential responses. We want to know who's responding because we want to later link their responses to their profiles in Populi, so anonymous will be set to no. The response review field lets you choose whether or not you're going to review responses. If response review type is set to none, then you can't review the individual responses. So when you've gotten a response back from someone, you won't be able to set the individual fields to reviewed, and you also won't be able to manipulate their form's overall status. The other two options both allow you to review individual responses and to set the overall form review status. And for review and decision, your options for that overall status will be different. Let's look at a couple of example responses so you can see where that shows up. If you set that type to review, the options for the form status will be submitted, processing, and complete. If you choose decision, the options are submitted, processing, rejected, and accepted. These overall form statuses don't really do anything different. They're just options that cut with the grain of different types of forms. Let's say you have a conference registration form. If someone paid the fee, they get into the conference. That form should probably just be set to review. So it could be set to processing or completed. On the other hand, let's say you have a housing change request form. So that's something that could be accepted or rejected. Decision probably makes sense for that. Reviewing won't be super important for this example since we only have a single linked field, but we're going to set this to review. Under limits, we have options to limit the number of responses we get, and we can do that for the whole form or by respondent. If you have a form that you want someone to submit multiple times, you can set how many times they can submit here. We only need one response per respondent. We won't need a description for this form. That's more useful in the case of self-service forms, like where students have to browse a list of forms available to them in Populi. The header image lets you input an image as your header, maybe something you've designed. On the fee field here, to lower the barrier to entry, we won't require a fee for this form. I don't see the need to charge these good people for allowing us to ask them questions. Custom CSS, this allows you to change the look and feel of your form if you have someone on your staff that's savvy with CSS and can make those changes for you. We'll enter some boilerplate gratitude for the thank you message here. On the redirect URL here, we're going to redirect the respondent to the alumni page, so when they hit submit, they end up over there. You may or may not have a localization option on your form setup here. For instance, we don't have one on our testing instance, but if you do have one, you can set a localization there that the form will default to. Right here at the end, we'll enter some categories. These are tags that are going to help you with your own internal organization of your forms. It's good to think about this as you build up a number of forms. You want to be able to easily sort through that list. Using categories well can help you keep things better organized. This form gets the fundraising and alumni categories. Now that things look good here, one last setting. Up here, we'll click Publish. This form can be distributed through various means now. You see a shareable link right here. You can create a QR code that will link to the form as well. Lots of options. Check out the description for more resources on soliciting responses. A great way to stay on top of updates and improvements to Populi as a software is via our weekly release notes. Those go out on Friday and you can follow them in our knowledge base. To do that, when you're logged into Populi, click on Help in the upper right-hand corner, click Search the Knowledge Base, then click Release Notes and Announcements. Click on the heading for Release Notes, and then click Follow. You'll receive an email when we post release notes there, and the release notes are fun. Lots of people say it's the highlight of their week. I've been Josh for Populi. You've been great. Thanks for watching.